Welcome to 17 Strong. Victories don't come by accident. Here's your host, Steve Teixeira.
Thanks, Andy. Welcome to another 17 Strong podcast. I'm your host, Steve Teixeira, along with my beautiful wife, Holly. Hi, babe.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. We are plugging forward with another one.
I know.
Special guest today.
Yes.
And would you like to?
No, I want you to introduce her. You've known her longer than I have.
Well, I think everybody knows Deb.
I know. Deb Jeffers. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, we are loving it.
Yep, with the American Cancer Society.
Yes.
And I know through Ryan's journey, you were a big help to us, and with Danelle's journey and so many other people. That you've helped impact, whether it be their treatment or their healing process, whatever it is. Thank you. So we're excited to have you here with us.
Thank you guys.
Yes.
It's going to be fun.
Yes, absolutely.
So why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with American Cancer Society?
So you asked me where I was born and raised, and here, Santa Maria.
Maria.
Born and bred. And so here in Santa Maria, and love it, and went to college in San Francisco, but of course came back because this is where you need to live.
Absolutely.
This is paradise.
It's gorgeous, right?
And I got involved with the American Cancer Society because I had a cute little girl that was going through treatment, and her doctor told us that there was a purple party because she loved the color purple.
Oh.
And so they told us the date and time and told us to go. And so we did. And when we got there, it was called Relay for Life. And we walked the track, and it was dusk. So there was the white luminaria bags that had people's names on them. And we were walking, I'm reading the names on the bags. And so many people we knew that I didn't know had cancer.
Yeah.
And so we sat through the luminaria ceremony. And of course, if you've ever been to one, I cried and didn't even know a lot of the people, but started to cry. And it was great. And unfortunately, this little girl passed away. And we decided to start a team in her name, in her honor. And we did. And I continued to do it. And 3 years later, they asked me, oh, would you like to become part of the American Cancer Society? I'm like, what do I have to do? And they're like, kind of what you're doing now. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Interviewed. They called, said, you have a job? I said, when do I start? And she said, December 1st. I said, I'm there.
Awesome.
And December 1st, almost 13 years ago.
13 years ago, you've been with American
Wow.
Cancer. That's amazing. That is amazing. And I have been to several Relay for Lives, and I'm sure a lot of people on our podcast have too. It's amazing, and they're all a little bit different. The one I have gone to is the one here in Shell Beach at the Dinosaur, and that one's awesome. We did that.
We did the one at the high school too, when it was around the track.
Oh, that's
Yes.
right.
At the high school.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot.
But it is
about
emotional.
that.
Because at the time, Ryan was going through treatment and Topher was there.
That's right. He gave his testimony.
And he gave his,
That's right.
testimony in front of everybody. But just to see all those bags and knowing that light in that bag represents a life,
Right.
That's either been impacted or touched by cancer in some way.
It is really, I remember Topher's. I didn't know him very well before that. And he came over and he kind of put his arm around me and he was telling me a story, and I started to cry, and it hadn't even got to luminarias yet.
Oh.
And so I said, he goes, how do you keep doing this job? How do you continue to do this job with all of these bags and all of these relays that you do? I said, because of people like you.
Yeah.
I can't look you in the face and say I quit trying.
Right.
And I can't look my mom in the face and say I quit trying.
That's right.
And so I have to continue to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would like for you to go over a little bit about the American Cancer Society, because I don't think the average person knows exactly what you guys do. So just explain to us or walk us through that.
Our main focus for the American Cancer Society is to fund research. My brother says I'm trying to put myself out of a job because we find that one little thing
is awesome,
which would be great,
right?
And it would be wonderful, but we fund research. We just did $33.5 million in grants for research funding. We are the second largest funder of research next to the government. So that's what we do. That's exactly what we do.
So no gas cards, no meal tickets, nothing like that.
No. No wigs. We have wigs, but we provide wigs, but we provide them in the cancer centers. So Hearst Cancer Resource Center, Mission Hope,
Gotcha.
Rio Grande, we have them there. And so we don't have them in our offices. We make sure that you want to go where you're comfortable. And coming to an American Cancer office isn't always the most comfortable thing. But
Sure.
when you're in a treatment center, you can just walk down the hall.
Yeah.
And get what you need. And so we do that. And our biggest thing is our 1-800 number and our cancer.org. They are the most up-to-date information you can get.
And what is the 1-800 number again?
1-800-227-2345.
And we'll have Nate put that up on the screen for us.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, very important.
So we covered the 800 number. Tell us about cancer.org.
Cancer.org. You can just go to cancer.org and you can just search whatever you need to. And it will give you the most up-to-date information. Please, please, please do not Google.
Yes.
And we tell everybody
second
that. Yeah.
Yes. Don't Google.
Don't Google.
No, it's the worst thing. And it's not even, it's not healthy for you. No, we don't need to know that. You just take one day at a time. That's what I always tell people.
Exactly. One step at a time. Just go, if it's brain cancer, put brain cancer in the search and it'll come up with everything you need. And then, if you have questions, you can send an email to cancer.org or you can call the 1-800 number.
Gotcha. That is so good. So good for everybody to know that, because I had the misconception about the whole American Cancer Society. But I do, in talking to Danelle, I know that she was on 3 different trials and all 3 of them were funded by American Cancer Society. So there is a little bit of peace that, you get, because that's what they're there for, Is there anything else you want to talk about that?
Well,
Because
I want to know how COVID
Yes, that's where I wanted to go.
impacted the American Cancer Society.
It has been awful.
I bet.
I had a patient call and they needed to go to treatment and they were too scared to go to treatment because of COVID. You are not going to die from COVID. You're going to die from cancer if you don't go get your treatments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, please, please
Get your treatment.
Yes, there's every place I've been, every cancer center is clean and they're doing everything they need to do to keep you safe. Please go to your treatments.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
It also affected the American Cancer Society. We laid off 1,500 people.
Wow.
We closed offices because we have been home. We were sent home Friday the 13th, March 13th. We'll never forget it. And
Right.
our CEO told us, well, let's go home and see if we can all work from home for 2 weeks.
And this is nationwide.
This is nationwide. So we thought, okay, we'll go home for 2 weeks, see if we can work. So
We're all in denial, Deb. All of us.
we're still home.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're still
home. 2 weeks light.
Yeah.
We
Now
lied.
over a year.
Over a year.
But you've closed several offices.
I have closed several offices. Yes, in my area, we've closed all the offices because nobody really came to the American Cancer Society office, because you can go to the cancer center and get all of our information there, or you can call our 1-800 number,
Yep.
or you can go to cancer.org and you can print it right off of there. If
Right.
you're one of those people that has to have it,
Yep.
you can print right from there. And if you call the 1-800 number and you want something, we'll send it to you.
Okay.
And so it isn't like you have to be in an office, and we're normally out in the community, so
Sure.
we don't need an office.
That's
Right.
right.
And so as soon as they are allowed, we're hoping Q4, Q3 that we'll be out in the public.
Right.
We are hoping.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
So where is your territory? Tell everybody where your territory is, because it used to be from Santa Barbara to.
used to be San Luis County, Santa Barbara County, Ventura County.
Okay. Now.
Now it's Ventura County to Santa Cruz, and from the Pacific Ocean to the Nevada border.
Wow.
That's like, oh my goodness.
There's 14 counties. Don't ask me. I don't know them. I just know that we have a big area and I have a new team, and it's very hard to learn your new team over Zoom and Teams meetings.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
we're doing a great job. I
Good.
have a team of go-getters that are not letting COVID affect what we're doing.
Well, that's good.
We're still out there with our patients. We're still fundraising. We turned virtual. ACS didn't do virtual things. We want you to come and be together and
Yep.
have that, if you're a cancer patient, you want to sit next to somebody that's going through the same thing and have that talk. Or
Yep.
if you're a caregiver, you want to hear what another caregiver is doing.
Right.
That's what we're about. We're about getting people
Absolutely.
together. Well, not with COVID.
Right.
Right.
So we have all of our
Meetings or.
everything is virtual.
Oh, gotcha. Do you think that that's starting to go in the, just the right direction of maybe meeting these people in person eventually? I mean, because now that the vaccine's out, or do you just feel like they're just gonna keep doing it virtual because it's working?
So some people are just not going to be comfortable getting out in the public until
Right.
everybody's vaccinated, and not everyone's going to get it. So
Right.
let's be honest.
It's yeah.
And you're immune compromised.
Right.
And your family doesn't want to be around other people because there with you and you're immune compromised. So those, I think some of the things are going to stay, and some of the things have done really well. Some virtual things we've done really well, and some virtual things we have not done well. And we've learned, like we had an event in April and it was supposed to be in person, and we had to, and I don't like this word, pivot to doing something virtual. It was not good because by September we had learned all the things we needed to do and all the correct ways to do it. We were throwing things together. We were putting YouTube videos, and it was not.
It was a learning curve for everyone.
And really now we're really good at it, but we want to be in public. We want to be out with everybody. And so hopefully
it's about relationships. It really is. You can't get that feeling when you're on Zoom sometimes.
Well, especially someone going through cancer. Yeah. I mean, they need that physical touch, that closeness to know that you care. Exactly. And you can't get that from a Zoom call.
You can't. You just can't. And it makes me sad a lot of the times that, because of COVID, they can't have that advocate to go back there with them to get that news or to be with them during treatment. I know that there are some people that are really trying, but for the most part, I've had a lot of Victory Trip recipients that have not been able to have that advocate person to be there. And I know even when Danelle was going through those tough times, it was like, they had to it was like an act of Congress just to get her husband back there, and so it is.
Well, and it was the drive-through parades and all that stuff.
Yeah, and those are great, but really,
they're heartbreaking.
They're heartbreaking.
That picture of Danelle and Dr. DiCarlo, when someone's standing behind them and they're taking the picture of their backs watching, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, and it broke my heart when I saw John's sign. I bawled just because I was like, that's not okay that he's down here and he can't be up there with her. Like, it just broke my heart, and he wanted to be up there with her. So there's things that it doesn't make sense because they live together, but everybody's trying to be safe. So I guess at the end of the day, like you said earlier, that just get your treatment. It's so important to get your treatment.
I know you have to be in there by yourself.
Yes.
And I know you have to go in these places, but I know a lot of the places like UCLA Health, they'll Zoom you in if you can't be there. Exactly. And so at least you're hearing it, because you never want to go into a doctor's office where you're getting information like this by yourself.
That's
you
right.
have to have somebody there with you, because when you hear
you go numb.
I have cancer,
you
stopped hearing.
You're exactly right.
You said it, yes.
You stop. Everything you see the doctor's mouth moving, but you don't know. You can't tell.
All you heard was cancer.
Yep. Yeah. And then you're going to go home and Google it later, which is not what you're supposed to do.
Please don't.
Don't do that.
I did it. I'll be honest. Okay, I'm a horrible human.
And tell us about, do you mind talking about your mom?
No.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your mom's journey, because I know that kind of segued you into going into American Cancer Society.
So my mom was diagnosed with a very rare cancer, and she called me. I was coming home from a relay in Lompoc, and I was driving, and she called, and I, answered, and I said, "How, Mom?" And she goes, "I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Go ahead." And she's like, "No, I need to come see you." I'm like, "Mom, I was just in Lompoc. You live in St. Anne's, and now I'm driving to Rio Grande. So just what's going on?" So she tells me she's been diagnosed with this rare cancer, and that she's going to see a doctor in Santa Barbara. Or in San Ynez. And I said, "Okay." I said, what's the cancer?" She goes, "It's called Merkel cell." Never heard of it. Yeah. Okay. And she seemed concerned. I thought, okay, I'll go back to my office. I was unloading at the office. I'll go to my office. I open my computer, and I did what I tell everyone not to do. I Googled it. I spent 5 minutes and I closed the computer, and I freaked out. Then I thought, okay, I'm sure that's what she did.
Yep.
So I took a breath. And I unloaded the car, and the motorhome was there. And, to do a relay, we have a lot of things. Yeah. And so my husband was driving the motorhome, and a friend of mine was driving a truck with a trailer, and they walked in the door, and I burst into tears. They're like, "We know you're tired. You just did a 24-hour event." I said, "You're not going to believe this." And so I told them. I said, "Go ahead and do what you have to do. Give me some time." Mm-hmm. So I unloaded the things and kept thinking. I thought, what am I doing? I called our 1-800 number, and I asked them, "What do we have on Merkel cell? What kind of cancer is this?" Mm-hmm. I don't know anything. Yeah. And the guy was so nice. He's like, "Deb, let me look it up." And he says, "We don't have a lot. This is a very rare cancer." I'm like, "Well, of course it is." So I said, "Okay, send me what you have." So he emailed everything. And so I read it, and we found a doctor in Seattle, Washington. This is what he does.
Wow.
So we called Monday morning and got an appointment. He said, "You need this, this, and this done." And I got those things done here. And we were there 14 days later.
Wow.
And you walked into the Hutch Clinic and you sat in a room and everyone came in. You didn't have to go anywhere.
You didn't have to move.
Nope, you just sat there and they came in. And the very last person that came in was a researcher. And she said, I'm doing a research program. And the room wasn't any bigger than this. And we were all in there. So it was by both my brothers
closet, so.
and my mom and my stepdad and I, and we're all in this room pretty close together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the researcher says, we'd like you to be part of this research program. Well, I look down because I don't want to look at my mom and tell her you have to do this because it is her choice.
Sure.
She's my brother says, who funds your research? And she said, the American Cancer Society. And my brother's like 6'4", jumps up screaming. We're high-fiving, crying. Everything we're like, so I looked at Mom and she's like, I'm doing it. And the doctor said, your reaction. And he said, I said, I work for the American Cancer Society. He goes, I've never met anyone like you. I go, there's thousands of us.
Yeah.
There's thousands of us that do this,
yeah.
that fund research so that my mom can be in a treatment and a trial that is going to help her and help others like her.
But gives hope. Hope is what you have hope until that day. I feel like we never lost hope ever. It doesn't matter. You have hope. And that's what gives you that hope is that trial or that clinical, whatever it is,
so powerful.
It is. It's so powerful. And I mean, some of these trials don't even have names yet, but they are trials. And that's what gets them to get the name and to save lives. And, everybody's different. We always say that everybody reacts different. Everybody's body is different. And that could be the one for you.
It could. And so we changed our team name to Team 957 because that's the number she is in the trial. There weren't even 1,000 people in this trial. This is how rare this cancer was.
Wow.
So we said, okay, so she's 957. So that was how we became Team 957 is because of that. Wow. And so now she's still 7 years later, she's cancer free. Everything's great.
Awesome.
But
Gosh,
they still talk to her about it. They call just to check in and how are things going and side effects because that's a huge.
Oh yeah, life after cancer. Yep, I get it. I totally understand that.
Yeah, so she's doing great, but that's another reason, and
that motivates you.
Yeah.
I hope it motivates anybody out there to go. There is hope, and there is there's so many smart people out there that are doing research and for everything, even the rare. Because how many times did we hear rare?
Oh yeah.
I mean the rare.
And Ryan even asked me, why do you keep doing it? He asked me first, when we first talked, he asked me, what do I do? Because when I first met him, I wasn't under the American Cancer Society umbrella. I did work for there, but I was doing something else. And so he asked me what I did, and I told him. And he said, how do you do this over and over and over again? I said, people like you. I can't look your parents in the face and tell them I quit trying.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's not acceptable. And then my mom, I can't look my mom in the face today and tell her I quit trying.
Right.
Absolutely.
And trust me, there's days where I'd like to.
Oh, I'd like to just, quit. But you don't.
You can't.
You can't. Absolutely. And I know that's what keeps me going and Steve going with our Victory Trip recipients. And, and that happens, they relapse, things happen. And, but it keeps me motivated because I know that we're on the cutting edge of some cure. I just know if there isn't one out there already, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just, how they do different drugs and make it happen.
And new therapies. Just the therapies that
too.
Weren't around 5 years ago.
Oh,
the immunotherapies, the targeted radiation.
Yes.
All these new things that are cutting edge. It's like we have so much to work on.
Don't you remember when they were talking about those T cell and they modified that thing, T CAR cells when Ryan was in the hospital?
CAR T cells.
Yes. And Mateo actually got that done.
Yeah. I have a friend right now in Stanford that they're doing that.
And that's not even 5 years old yet.
So far.
I'm blown away. I'm like, wow, I remember them talking about that.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And these are things that the effects of this aren't as harsh as chemo. Radiation is harsh, but radiation, we can target radiation now. Yeah. You can target it to a pinpoint, a brain tumor, and then that's all we're doing.
That's what they did with Ryan, right?
Right.
Yep.
So we can do that. Chemo and
it's just everything.
It's everything. It's all good and bad cells. It's going through your whole entire body.
That's right.
And most of those drugs have been around since the 50s. I think you could count on one hand the number of new cancer drugs that have come out.
Because we've come up
years.
with therapies that are working instead of chemo. Like chemotherapy is harsh and depends on how your body reacts.
That's right.
Yeah.
Some people, it's like, oh, Deb, this was easy. And some people, the second day, it's like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody reacts differently.
That's right. They do.
So you were saying offline, and I think our viewers, this is important for them, is that when COVID hit and the American Cancer Society said, we got to call a timeout here, they had to stop research and development and everything. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So when the world stopped, whatever day that was, I know what day it was for us, Friday the 13th, which we'll never forget. But people had to leave research and leave it behind. They couldn't keep going there because, of course, we didn't know what COVID was. We were in Hawaii in January and we thought, the guy said, here's extra Corona because they think it's coronavirus and they think it's the beer that's given it to them. So, of course, hey, we'll drink more.
Give me one more.
Right.
Yeah.
And so never did we think a year later we would be talking like this. So it stopped. And so cancer treatments, not the treatment itself, but the research stopped. And not because we didn't fund it, it's because they couldn't go in the labs and do it. And so they could have been making, we talked about cell development and that stopped. So those cells died, what they were working on. So they had to start all over again. So now we just funded $33.5 million grants all over the country to keep this going because we can be on the cusp of this huge breakthrough.
Absolutely. And cancer doesn't stop because of COVID. I mean, it does not. It doesn't discriminate because COVID's happening. And then let's go there. Like, but prior to COVID, Ryan had his cancer, and we were doing all this stuff, sanitizing everything. Right. So we were super familiar with all of this stuff before COVID happened. And he had to be isolated, and they had low immunity, and so.
And cancer patients know this. So they've been doing this. We've all been doing this for years.
Right.
That's right.
And so now the whole world is doing it.
Yep.
Which is great, but it's still the media and the government have scared everybody so bad that here we are, that people are not getting their treatments.
That's right.
They're too afraid of COVID to get a treatment for cancer. The cancer is going to kill them.
Yeah. They need to.
COVID's a real thing, and it's something to be worried about, especially if you're in a high risk bracket.
Absolutely.
Okay. We're not going to we've known quite a few people that have actually lost the battle to COVID.
Right.
But cancer is going to get you.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. And we also talked about how people have not gotten their screenings because of COVID. They haven't gone to a doctor. They've just been, and that's even worse because you're prolonging something that could have been preventative.
That's right. They weren't doing any mammograms that weren't necessary, essential. Yeah. So they're, and I'm sure it's not just mammograms, it's everything, every screening and everything. So I think that we all need to encourage those,
please,
cancer survivors that
get
they
your
need
screenings.
to get them. Absolutely.
If you're late on your annual exams, whatever they are, whoever you are, if it's a mammogram, a colonoscopy, your normal every year
or every 2 years, whatever it is,
please go get them. Yeah. We've already seen the numbers in cancer patients spiking. So can you imagine once the world gets back to normal as we're going to get, what is this going to look like?
That's right.
What numbers are you seeing? I know what we see as far as victory trip recipients, but what do you see from maybe a national point of view, or even if you could go regionally?
We're seeing disparities, health disparities, of course, and then we're seeing mammograms. We're seeing high incidence of breast cancer and colon cancer, and those two can be cured. Colon cancer, get a colonoscopy.
And they don't even recommend that until you're what, 40 or 50? Maybe 50.
It's over 50 now, I thought.
I wonder why they don't do that sooner.
Well, because if you have a risk, if you have family history, and be honest with your doctors, know your family history. When you walk in and sit down with your primary care and your father or your mother had colon cancer, you need to tell them.
Right.
Because they're going to do them.
Risk. Right.
Again, you're your best advocate.
That's
you need to be honest with your doctors. You can't say, oh, everything's great. And no, I don't have any problems with my family. You have to be honest so they can test for these things. Because if you have a family history, they're going to test sooner than that.
That's right. Well, I had a conversation with Ryan about this. This was super interesting because he was saying, I think that every high school person that plays sports or whatever, you have to have a physical anyway.
Correct.
He goes, why don't they scan for cancer or anything? It's 0.1%. He goes, but Mom, 0.1%, they could be saving lives. And I'm like, it's an insurance thing. Like, I don't think every insurance is going to
It's all a money
approve
issue.
That.
It always has been.
Yep.
What 18-year-old thinks that? You know what I mean? Like, he knew because he was diagnosed at 18, and he's like, we could be saving so many lives if the insurance would allow them just to have a screening and, and a physical to play football, basketball. A baseline. Exactly.
Now that, race car drivers have to have a baseline MRI or CT of their brain to know, why aren't we doing this with athletes?
Right.
And do it younger.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
I don't
money.
know. It is. And it's, but I just think that it's just also educating people on it, because we are seeing cancer earlier and earlier and earlier. And I feel like that's what we do half the time, is educate people, because they don't realize that, maybe Make-A-Wish doesn't, it's, what their guidelines are, what, American Cancer Society guidelines are, or whatever it is. So, we do a lot of education, and really the average person just doesn't know. I mean, Ryan even said, he goes, I know a lot more about cancer than I want to know.
Of course. And also, it's not going to happen to me, so why talk about it? I hear that all, and we never thought it would happen to us.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what?
Denial.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. So get out in front of it and talk about it, and know that not on the back of your leg or the thing on your face that doesn't go away are things that you need to talk about.
That's right.
And not be like, oh, it'll be fine. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's talk about it, educate yourself. There's plenty of information.
Absolutely.
And we spend a lot of time educating.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of, and I feel the same way. I feel like that's just part of it. Create an awareness of things and education. But I don't remember the first time that I met Deb. Do you remember the first time you met Deb?
I mean, there's not enough time on this show for that. But yeah, we go back to when I was a paramedic and she was working in the ER. When
you were working in the ER?
I was.
Oh, what did you?
Loved it. I was an X-ray tech.
X-ray tech?
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I wanted to be an X-ray tech, but I didn't do that. I went into dental, and I can take X-rays there. But anyway, what I remember. Do you remember the first time you met Ryan?
Yes.
You do?
Very vividly. And it's a funny story, and it's going to be mean to Steve, but I could be mean to Steve
Yeah,
all these years.
Everybody's mean to me, so it's okay.
So I knew about Ryan because I know the Teixeira family.
Okay.
So I'm very close with Paul and Deanne.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
yes.
Paul
Right.
passed away. But Jeffrey, their son, is named after my husband. So we were very close. And so I knew the Teixeira family. And Ryan, we were at the rodeo.
I was going to talk about that. The Dinner of Champions, what was it called?
Golden Circle of Champions.
Okay.
The first one. And I introduced myself to everybody coming in, because we had talked to a lot of people and just didn't know, couldn't put faces together. So you guys came in and we talked, and, Ryan was just as nice and sweet as can be. And so we sat down and talked, and I said, he goes, it's kind of weird because I'm older. I'm like, I know. I said, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And this was our first one, so I didn't know what it was going to be like either, but it's going to be a great time.
Absolutely.
So we had a good time, and he got up on stage, I'll never forget, and the guy from Resistol was there, and he was giving everybody hats. And he got to Ryan, and I look over, and he has this hat in his hand, and I look at Ryan, and he got this big grin. He goes, it might be a little too small, because he had kid hats. And Dustin was so sweet and got him a hat that fit him and everything. But I remember walking over, sitting at the table, and he said, Ryan said, what do you do you don't do this for a living? I said, no, I work for the American Cancer Society. And that's when we had a great conversation about that. So you guys went out to the grandstands, and you weren't there. And I walked over to see how everybody was doing. And Ryan says, well, do you recognize my dad? And I'm like, no, I don't. He's like, well, he knows you. I'm like, he does. And he goes, and then he says, well, okay.
You knew me with hair, that's why.
He said, imagine him with hair and skinny. And he had this look on his face, and I started laughing, and I'm looking, and I look up at him, I go, he was a paramedic. He goes, see, I knew you would know who he was.
Oh my God.
It was so funny.
Let the record show that I've never been skinny, though. Love that child.
Oh my gosh. That was so, he laughed so hard too. He just cracked up.
So everybody has a Ryan story.
That's
of course.
so Ryan.
So you came back and sat down, and he looks at you and looks at me, and he just started laughing. And I was like, that's so bad.
Yeah.
But that's a long time ago.
They kid about our wedding pictures and even growing up, because they can see the transition from my hair to having hair to slowly losing hair to just saying we're shaving it off because it's not worth fighting over.
Yeah.
So funny.
It's not worth it.
Yes.
At all. Yeah.
Just
yeah.
He was, and I always think that pediatric cancer patients are wiser beyond their years.
So true.
And when Ryan would talk about, whatever we were talking about, it always wiser beyond his ears.
Totally. I agree with you 100%. Yep. Yeah, I some of the things that he said was just so, I mean, I learned from him sometimes, and just the he was so positive that being around him made me feel so much better.
His perspective on life
was live it to the fullest and don't ever think, I mean, just live in the dream. That's exactly what he did to the nth degree. I mean, amazing. So,
and I think you have, obviously, all these kids that have gone through this, but I know Lexi Brown has a special place in your heart. Yeah. And then the Scott family has a very special place in your heart.
They do.
So,
well, all the people in this county, I mean, really, because you probably know all of them that have cancer through this whole, and it's interesting because it is just such a network, because when Ryan did get diagnosed, we got phone calls everywhere, and it's a little, it's invasive at the beginning. You're like, oh my gosh, how did you know? And how do you, but everybody talks to everybody.
It's really overwhelming.
It is very overwhelming.
And I tell people all the time, decide what you want to do, with whom you want to do it, when you want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Because when you guys met the Scotts, it was at the Golden Circle.
Their golf tournament.
Well, no. I met them before at the circle of the
Golden
dinner.
Circle, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there.
The dinner. And then we decided to go to the golf tournament after that. Yeah.
And I saw you at the golf tournament because I helped out in the morning.
Oh, good.
Just because I have a pull for the kids.
Yeah.
That is deep down in my heart. I would do anything for any of them. And I just am that way. Teddy Bear Foundation.
Oh,
absolutely love them.
Love them. And I've used them as a resource.
I love them. And they do gifts for Christmas or for Valentine's Day or Easter. And so I've been able to be a volunteer for them and deliver up here to the kids. And you get to know them.
Absolutely.
And so Easter, they swing up the door and scream, Debs here, and it's just, they're all, and I can't get close to them. They're masked. I'm masked, but you still get that interaction, and you check on the parents. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Because as hard as it is, kids are resilient.
They are so resilient. Yep. Yeah. They are.
They're just
the
going
parents that we're going through it, because I mean, as a parent, you would do anything for your kids. You want to take that burden away from them and make it better in some way. And we're the ones that are actually suffering more than the kids are a lot of the times, especially emotionally.
Of course. And you don't show that when you're with them. And so I always ask the parents, the kids walk away and I say, how are you? Mm-hmm. And how are you really doing?
Right.
And that's what's key, Deb, is that, because I always say, how do people react to trauma? And I think it's just really cliche. Sometimes people will say, well, how are you? No, how are you really doing?
And then you have to add
that. You really care. Yep. You really care, because it's, I think it's normal that everybody says, hi, how are you? Well, you don't want to know how I am because I'm horrible, Right. But really, it's when you know how that person is somewhat feeling, or you've been in that position, you want to know, like, I'm thinking about you. Tell me some points that I can, help you with, or, sometimes you don't even know what you need. You just,
sometimes you just need someone to give you a hug or just say, how are you really doing? And I remember the first conversation. Yes, we spoke at the Golden Circle.
Yes.
But I remember the first conversation I had with you.
Oh, gosh. Tell me, what was it?
It was when Danelle was having treatment at Mission Hope.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked in. Of course, there's lots of people in there that I know. And Danelle and I spoke, and she introduced me to you. And I said, yes, we've met, but never had a real conversation. And so we had a real conversation that day because a friend of mine was going through treatment, her first one. So we all came in like gangbusters, like we would normally do, like it's a party. And that was the first time we had a conversation.
Wow. Yep. Wow. Yeah, it's unreal. It is. It's almost numbing. So, the whole thing, it's hard. It's really hard to go through it, or to see somebody go through it, because your hands are tied, know, and you've seen it.
You want to fix it. You want to be able to do something to fix it. And there's just times where, and as hard as it is for me to say, I can't fix it, but someone joked around, you're the cancer lady. You're the one that we go to because you have the answers, or I'm a connector.
Answers. Yeah, right. That's
I can connect you to the whatever it is, or I know someone, or we can help you do this, or let's think, right now we have somebody that's really struggling and we're trying to figure out how to help them.
That's right.
And so it's like, let's get a bunch of heads together to figure this out, because I may not be you might be so emotional that person, you can't see the bigger picture.
That's right.
But you have the resources available to you to put the pieces together.
And I've been doing it a long time and have lived in this area for so long that I can reach out to people and say, okay, this is the issue I have. How can you help me? Or is there a place that we can send this person to get help?
Right.
Yes.
You know, because right now, mental health.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And you know, we've said this too, after, you know, life after cancer, there's so many levels of it, you know, and you want to be there for them and try to connect them in the right place. So you're right. It is mental health is PTSD and I mean, on and on.
But you don't flick a switch once either they've passed away or they're dealing with all the side effects.
Absolutely.
There's not a switch that you flick that everything's fine.
No.
Because there's days where I have a sticky on my computer because I went through a couple of weeks where I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. It's just, you know, we just had a lot of people that we were losing and just seemed like we weren't gaining. I always think, you know, tomorrow will be a better day. Tomorrow will be a better day. Well, I had that, is tomorrow going to be a better day? And I put a sticky note of someone that passed away, just the date, to remind myself, I need to keep doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to keep doing this. And I have on the scroll of my screensaver is a picture of Ryan, is a picture of Lexi, is a picture of Noah, is a pictures of people that have passed that I need to remind myself why I do this.
Why you do it.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets to the point where like, it's emotionally draining. Cancer is not an easy thing.
That's so true.
And you know, we have people that reoccur that have been great for years and years and years, and then they reoccur.
I know.
Or we have people that, you know, can't find their doctors and we're helping them find a doctor, or they need a second opinion.
Yeah, that's a big one too. A second opinion. They just need that. And, you know, sometimes that second opinion is what gives them that hope and gives them that, you know, whatever, that therapy or that
time.
That's right.
More time.
There's things that they want to be able to do that they couldn't do if they stayed in the course they were going.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I just feel like we're just people. We want to be around them. We want to give them, like you said, we want to fix it, or we want to just to connect with them and give them that hug, you know, whatever it takes, you know.
And that hope that this is out there or that's out there. And they, you know, we get phone calls all the time that, you know, Deb, I don't know what to do.
I'm one.
And I'm good with it.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes I just listen.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what I said too. I'm not a counselor. I don't know, but I can listen to you. And I would love to bounce some things off of you. Another thing I wanted to try to talk about a little bit is just the Relay for Life. If somebody wants to get involved, and I know you do a lot of them, so explain like where they are and how they can get involved. And there's different ways you can get involved with like Luminary or explain that. Walk us through that.
relayforlife.org.
Oh, okay.
And they'll ask you to put in your zip code and it'll pull up the one closest to you.
Gotcha.
I have 27 in my new area.
27.
Wow.
So
I have two of the largest in the state of California.
And where are the largest? Tell us.
Bakersfield is the largest, and Salinas.
Oh, I was born and raised in Salinas.
In
Did you know
the
that?
salad bowl of the world.
Yep.
Well, I went from Salinas to Santa Maria. That's, you know.
She stayed in the salad bowl.
I really did.
And now we're in the fruit cup. No, we're not. We don't live in the Central Valley.
No. But yeah, I was born and raised in Salinas. My folks still live in Salinas. So I have a sister that lives there and a brother that teaches. He's a teacher. So yeah, I didn't know that they were the biggest. And we have a victory trip recipient from Salinas. So I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
I know. So we'll have to connect after this so that you can spread the word about 17 Strong for sure. But you can go to relayforlife.com, you said, or .org. And then is there anything else that you would recommend? Or, I mean, obviously you can see that, but like if they wanted to get involved or to sponsor one of those bags or anything.
Right. Everything's on there.
Everything's on there.
And then if you are a survivor or caregiver, you just register on there and we send you information on when the next one is. Right now we're in that Plan A, Plan B.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Santa Maria is going to have an in-person event at the Santa Maria Raceway, October 23rd.
We're doing it. Okay.
We
if you
need
don't
to be
feel
with
comfortable,
people.
wear a mask or whatever.
And if you don't feel comfortable, we're going to do a little survivor area where you can come and just be with survivors.
Okay.
North County is doing one in person. It's at Lavinia Winery. We're doing a little bit of a spin-off because Relay, we love Relay, but it's 31 years old now.
Okay.
And so we're doing something different up there. So we're doing a walk in the vineyard and we'll have the winemaker there
be
and be able to talk.
nice.
And Cal Poly's doing their Steadfast Relay. They have one. The Cal Poly kids have one, and it's a lot of fun. So different than our community ones because they can do
college kids.
And so we have them all over.
Okay, and volunteering, you can all look on there too. Okay,
you call me.
Good.
805-245-2475. You can call me.
We got another phone number for Nate.
Exactly. Well, Nate. And I just know that whenever we would walk the Relay for Life, and we would see Ryan's name, and I'm like, how did they even do that bag thing? Because I didn't even know how to do it. So you can always just look
buy
on
a
the
luminaria.
website.
They're $10 a donation, and you can put whatever you want on them. I have a stack that I kind of move around with me.
Gotcha.
I pay for them, and then I have them at home.
Gotcha.
And I have, people that are lost their battle and people that are battling and people, we have in memory, in honor, and in support of.
Oh,
that's awesome.
So, okay.
Yep.
So it's all those different things. We have a couple of Victory Trip recipients that didn't get to go on their trip. And so that might be something that we need to think about in the future to sponsor that bag or whatever. Anything else about trying to get involved or,
No, I think to me, one of the big things is donations. I know.
Yeah. Oh, donations and fundraising.
17 Strong, we're down. I know American Red Cross, most of the nonprofits across this country are down. So if you're able to give, please give at cancer.org.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or 17strong.org. We'd,
It takes all of us working together.
It does.
I'm lucky that I get to work with everybody. I get to work with Teddy Bear. I get to work with you guys. I get to work with all these great, amazing organizations. And it takes all of us to take care of these patients.
Absolutely. Because we, as 17 Strong, we don't do terminal cancer, but we have resources that we can make that happen. And we've seen it. So it's amazing.
And to be able to call you and say, we have somebody else, put them on your list.
Absolutely.
And then, we just try the connecting part, the networking of all of us is what makes it work.
That's right. And it's super, living in the community that we live in, it's a tight group of people. But we need to make sure that we know where everybody's at because sometimes they get shuffled. So,
Yes,
so
keeping track of everyone is really hard.
It's really hard sometimes.
Especially after COVID.
After COVID, I feel like I've missed
everybody.
Year.
It's become a chess game.
Yeah.
It's a shell game.
Yes.
Where's the ball?
That's
Where's
even a better analogy.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
So we are still there and I'm still here. So
I am too. So at least we can call on each other for things. And
of course.
So I think that's awesome. And is there anything that you would like to add?
No, just thank you. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
You.
And thank you for letting us into Ryan's life. There's a lot of, I think the hard part is, people say, well, there's not a lot of pediatric cancer. Okay, there's a ton of it, but a lot of people don't have their kids, they're not in public, or they don't have a podcast, or they're not keeping a caring bridge, or whatever there are, they don't do that.
Right.
And so when I deliver for Teddy Bear, I realize how many more that I don't know about.
Oh,
because they're not out there,
kids.
They're not,
that's right.
Watching Mateo so healthy and all the things
amazing.
All that hair.
I know.
And so it's just great to see him. And I think that's the thing is that just because you don't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of kids battling and it's
especially in this area.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, and you can see it, all the way from, what did you say? Santa Cruz to Ventura. So
that's the state line.
That's amazing. That's crazy. But cancer does not discriminate. And so, it's, anybody can be that person.
I think the big thing too is that the American Cancer Society works with a lot of different organizations, Stand Up to Cancer, the National Cancer Institute, but we also work with St. Jude. And I think people don't realize that there's a huge connection there. Oh. And St. Jude doesn't only deal with kids that have cancer, their treatments go all over. Right. And so it goes to adults too. And so I think that's a huge thing. I'm a huge supporter of theirs.
Oh,
I think that
we love St. Jude's.
St. Jude's refers to us. So we've had many referrals from St. Jude's, and ours is young adults. So 18 to 40, but definitely we have.
And that facility is amazing. And if you ever get there, please stop.
Memphis, right?
Yep.
Memphis.
It is something you'll never forget.
I bet.
Yep.
I bet. That's
well,
awesome.
Deb, thank you so much.
Thank you
for the work that you're doing, and it was great having you.
Absolutely.
And with that, we'll wrap up another 17 Strong podcast. Thank you to Nate Hand, our video and audio engineer. Yes. And let's remember, attitude is everything.
You've been listening to 17 Strong. Victories don't come by accident. To be part of the show, make a donation, or request more information, go to 17strong.org. That's SEVENTEEN strong.org.